Well, hello. Welcome, everyone. It's Ashley from Lovely Commotion. Thanks for joining me today. I wanted to share with you today all about something I kind of revamped, and it seems to be working really well. It's called Hunt the Room. So, as we know, young children are little explorers. They love magnifying glasses, binoculars, they love touching everything in sight. And as we know, they figure out the world through exploration. That's just who they are. And so, when planning these academic type activities for young children, really, why not build off of their natural curiosities, their natural need to explore? So, years ago, I tried my own version of Write the Room. This is when it was kind of becoming big, and I had been a first grade teacher in the past, so this made sense to my brain. And if you're not familiar, Write the Room is an activity where like you hang a letter, word, or number cards around the room, and then students have a clipboard with a recording sheet, and they hunt around the room for that letter, word, number, whatever it may be, and they write it on their recording sheet. And so it's exciting for them because they are searching, right? They're doing that natural, like, I want to go find things. I want to explore. I want to check them off my list type of thing. And so it's definitely a well-loved activity. And it was particularly well-loved by my students that could write letters and numerals easily and were interested in writing letters and numerals. But it wasn't so much loved by students that just weren't ready yet for writing words or letters. And that's okay. And I love the idea of Write the Room just because they're moving, right? They're up and they're moving. They are exploring, they're looking, they're getting excited, and many times they are working together, whether they set out to or not. And so when my teacher across the hall asked me if I had any Write the Room resources, I was like, oh, I think I do. But you know what? I have not taken a look at those in a while. And I think I need to look at them with fresh eyes because really years have gone by and, as educators, we continue to grow and learn. And so I knew that I need to look at these again. And so that's when I decided I wanted to make some changes. And instead of Write the Room, it is now Hunt the Room because I wanted to make sure I was including lots of differentiation in this activity because it's great for center time. It's great for teaching children how to do it and then them being able to go do it on their own. And so I want to show you a little bit about what this resource does and how you can use it and some tips and tricks too. So first off, there are no like copy the word type of thing included in here. There's also no like the letter boxes, like tall letters for an L and a box that goes down for a G. Nothing like that is included. It was included in my previous product, and I just don't feel like that now, more than I know, is appropriate for children of our 4-year-old age. And so it's not something I included. But I will show you what I included, and we can walk through it. And I'll show you the ones that we have up in our classroom currently and how they're working. So let me show you what we have up currently. So this is like a numeral card. And so this would be a Write the Room for a numeral. And so children have the recording sheet, and I actually put them on those. I put it inside of one of those protector things that I don't even know what they're called, but they're at Target during back to school time, and you just slip the paper down and they can write on top with a dry erase marker and then erase it. And then I put that on a clipboard for a hard surface. And so I put this out and I showed them how to go around the room. And like in the first picture, it is a flower. So go find the flower and then write the numeral next to the flower. And so obviously in this one, they had not found the flower yet. And so that is kind of how that Write the Room works. And then I also made available one for a Search the Room. So this one, you can kind of see, I kind of got a picture of both. I've got a numeral one up and a search one up. So this letter N with the flower is a Search the Room. And so basically what they do is they go around and they search for the letters. So they're basically just matching them, right? And they're trying to find them and they're looking for the differences in letters. And I also differentiated this one, My doggies are wanting to play under here. This one, since there are 26 letters and that's a lot of letters, I went ahead and did I broke those letters up and did half of them too. So if you feel like that might be too much for your students to search for, there is less letters that you could use too. So those are the ones we have up currently in our room. And I love that you can add more than one set, and that will be kind of based on where your children are at and what you want them to be working on. And so we have a search the room for my students that are still working on recognizing some letters, wanting to see some letters, and then also my students that are ready to start writing some letters and numerals. But I want to show you, this is how I decided to organize them. Just one of those expanding files. And then this is a spring set. I plan on having also like a more fall and a winter set too. So, and drop me in the comments if some are something you could use. It's not something I would use, but since, you know, I already have this created, it would not be hard to provide that for you if that's something that you would like. So you just let me know. But so each inside of here, I have, it actually worked out perfectly. I had just enough. And so I wrote on there whether they were hunt. And so there's basically 3 categories. There's hunt, which is basically like I'm going around the room and I'm looking for this particular letter, word, shape, whatever. And then there is trace. So what they're going around, they're finding it and they're tracing it. And then there is write, and that's when it's kind of open-ended and they're going to write it on there. So I just want to give you some examples. So I showed you in the picture the one where they were searching the room for letters. This is the half sheet, so you can cut this in half and you can provide it to them that way. Now, when it comes to providing these recording sheets, I love being able to reuse them. Then I don't have to worry about copies. I don't have to worry about wasting paper. That's what works for me. Obviously, you can make copies. They could use dot markers. I mean, you could do lots of things. But for right now, we are using these in those sleeves. You could also laminate them. You can also attach a marker with a string if you want to your clipboard. I mean, it really just depends on kind of what you want to do with them. But I also want to show you some other ones. So there's also lowercase of that same hunt. And so you hang the cards around the room and they go and they use their recording sheet to find the letters. And again, this one also has a half sheet with less letters as well. So we will probably be moving on to that one after we work on some of our uppercase letters. And then I have a hunt for numerals. And so this one goes, I've got 2 sets here. So basically, so since this is spring themed, there are some eggs in there. So you're going to hang these around the room. And also tip, when you're hanging these, make sure you're hanging them at child eye level. If you're hanging them at your eye level, they're not going to see them. They don't look up there generally. And so make sure that they're at child eye level and a little bit below, and so that they can find them. You know, I hang them, I don't try to make them hard to find necessarily, but maybe, you know, in places they might not have thought. They certainly don't have to open up anything to find them. I don't want them to be working that hard in the hunting part of this, but, you know, maybe on the side of a cabinet where they have to search a little bit, but it's still obvious it's still there. And then these numerals I have cut into 2. You can cut these into 2. So the top is from 1 to 10, and the bottom is from 12 to 20, or 11 to 20. Good grief. So you can cut those apart and kind of decide where your students are on recognizing those numerals. And you know, you can also use this as a small group where you're going around with them and you're making sure to tell them the letters or the numbers and things like that. But I also just love that they are having to look and find and look at the shape of that numeral and find it on their paper, because the more they're seeing them, the more they're going to recognize them. And I also love, and this is not something I anticipated, but when I only put out 1 recording sheet for that activity, maybe 2, right? they're working together. Can I help you? Can I help you? And so what I'm finding is, and that I'm loving is that they're working together for a common purpose bonus. But I also have students, some of them go, I don't know that letter. What's that letter? And then we'll have another student in the group that knows that letter and go, oh, that's an R. And so then it's like, I had a reason to learn that right now because I'm hunting for it. And so if I have a reason, if I have a purpose for learning it, it's going to stick with them easier. And so I have loved that. Or they've got one and they're like, Miss Ashley, I do not know what this is. I can help them with that. Or I cannot find this letter. Let's find that Z. Where is that Z? And I'm saying it over and over again, right? So just using these as a group has really had some serious impacts that I didn't even think about. And so that has been super fun to watch them encourage each other, them help each other, them teach each other essentially. So also in the hunt, there are some shapes. These ones are spring themed, so they're flowers. We have square, rectangle. It includes rhombus, triangle, circle, whoop, whoop. Also a heart and an oval. And so they are going to use their recording sheet and they're going to go around and they can mark off the ones they found. So that one is fun too because they're looking at shapes and how are they different, and I have to differentiate these shapes to find the one, especially like squares and rectangles and circles and ovals, right? And then this one is something I plan on using at the beginning of next year. I wish I would have had this at the beginning of this year. I just didn't. So just basically teaching them how to use a hunt the room, I created a matching one. And I also like it too because they are having to look at the picture with detail, which is what we have to do sometimes to problem solve. You know, we have to look at the picture in the instruction manual closely, or we have to look for details in letters, right? To know their differences. And so I love that these little pictures are all of little cute little people, and they're all doing some spring activities, and you hang these around the room. And so you're basically teaching them like, this is how it works. Like, you have this page, see if you can find these kids and mark them off, color them in, do whatever it is that they want to do. But it's a great way to differentiate this for your younger students, your students who yet aren't ready for the letters, the shapes, the numerals, things like that. But you're also kind of teaching them how this works, how this whole activity works. And they can pretty much understand this is like a scavenger hunt, and I mark it off when I'm done. So I wanted to include that too. And then we move on to tracing. And so the tracing cards are on here. I made them a little bit gray because a lot in our classroom we use the gray and the light yellow as a tracing. And so I also did that on their recording sheet. And so they're going to go around, and when they find one of the cards, like this bunny that's a square, they're going to find the bunny and they're going to trace the bunny. So that's a shape tracing. But then I also have numeral tracing, uppercase tracing, lowercase tracing. So I'll just show you a couple, but like this one, this numeral one has some bigger numbers, and you don't have to use the bigger numbers because there's a recording sheet for both. So this recording sheet goes from 0 to 10. And so they are basically, and they like this font because it makes sense to them to trace it. They like to trace inside of it, and that works for me. And I generally don't, I don't want to put anything like this out that they have not already kind of had an experience with. And so if they're working on their own during center time while I'm working with small group, I want to make sure they know how to use it, and I want to make sure that they are forming those numerals correctly. So I use this not as a teach them how to write the numeral or letter, more of a practice writing, practice tracing. So we will have already done these, right? And so when they're creating their 9, they know they're not starting at the top and then coming around. They know how to create the 9 because we've done it before. So just a little tidbit there, but there's numerals there from 0 to 20, and then the letters are very similar. There's uppercase, there's lowercase, there's a lowercase w, a lowercase u, and the recording sheets on those are the same font as the numeral one so that they can trace inside of it. Again, if this is too much, cut it, right? Cut it down. Cut it only to the numerals that are in their name. You could easily make their own numeral sheet with names by just cutting these apart and putting them on the copier. And so that's an option too. But working on some of those letters that they know. Maybe you only put 3 or 4 on their clipboard, and that's what they go find. And then moving to write the room. So these write the room shapes are much like the others, but they're black. And so for my kiddos, that does not signify tracing as much as it does just the shape on the paper. And so very open-ended. So basically what they're doing is you can kind of see there's like a birdie on there. And so they've got to go find the picture up here. And that's where, so that one was 2 little bees. So up here in the 2 little bees, they're going to draw a rectangle. So obviously different than what we were doing with finding and tracing, a bit more of a harder skill for them to do. And so that's why I wanted to make sure this was differentiated. And then we have counting too. So not just, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Writing numerals, that is the one that's in my classroom right now. And so they're finding the flower shape or whatever picture is on there, and then they are writing that numeral there. So you can see right there that one of my students that's ready for that was working on that excited her, that she gravitated toward that because she was ready for that. We also have counting, and so I'm going to hang these around the room. And there's some ladybugs, and there's some umbrellas of different quantities. And they're going to find that one. So down here at the bottom, you see the ladybug, right? And so when they find the ladybug, they're going to count how many ladybugs there are, and they're going to write that number on their page. And for help, I gave them some number line down below too, so that they had it right there in front of them, because sometimes, it's like, oh, what was that again? How do you make that? And so that was something actually my co-teacher recommended, because she said that they were needing to she had some kiddos going to find the number line, trying to figure out, I know what it looks like, I don't totally know how to write it type of thing. So that is helpful there. But yeah, definitely super. So they're doing multi-step in this one, right? They're having to find it, count it, then write the number. And so definitely on the higher end of difficulty. And then there's also a Subitizing one. And this is not one I would use without them understanding what you do. And we practice Subitizing. I practice a silly game of don't count me, no counting. Let's see if you can see how many. Because that's really what Subitizing is, right? Is just being able, for the brain being able to go, oh, that's 2 without me even counting it. And so basically what they're doing with this one is you're hanging the Subitizing cards around the room, and they go up to 6, and they are finding the picture. So this one is a flower, and so then on their recording sheet, they know that it's 6. Now, are you going to know if they counted them or not? Probably not, unless you're standing right there. But understanding, and the more they do this, the more they're just going to naturally Subitize it, right? If they've played a lot of games with dice, this makes sense to them. This looks like 4. We've practiced it a lot. And so that is just a quick Subitizing one. Obviously, they can count if they need to count, but it's just a little bit of practice there. And then we get into writing letters, and a lot of them, right? And so I do not have these up yet, and it may be a while before we put them up, but they have the picture next to them and then a letter. So like here's a little sheepy with an A, and here's an egg with a B. And so these recording recording sheets are broken up into letters, and you can see at the bottom it says letters. Well, you may not be able to see it, but it says letters A to I. And so this sheet is just for letters A to I. And so they're looking for the picture and they're writing the numeral in the box that matches that picture. So if they found the sheep, they're going to write an A next to the sheep in this box. Okay, so that's pretty much how those work. And those are all the same for uppercase and lowercase. So that makes it nice because they kind of already know what they're doing, but they're working with different letters and different pictures. And then finally, we have some sounds. Oh, let me grab those. Hold on just a second. Okay, and then the last one is beginning sounds. And so this may or may not be one that you end up using with your class. Some children are really grasping to this by the end of pre-K, and some still need a bit of time. So I included it in case it's something that your class, there's some students in your class that you think could be helped by this, but it definitely, I will say, is not something that is my goal for my students to know all of their letter sounds by the time they leave me. And that may sound crazy to some of you, but in our state of Missouri, that is not one of our standards. It is not one of our standards for our students to know all of their letters before they leave pre-K. And do our schools want them to know them? Yeah, sometimes they do. They want them to know all of them, and they'll come back from kindergarten screening, and our kindergarten teachers go, well, they don't know all of them. And I have to be an advocate for my children and say, hey, look, this isn't required yet. We need to give them time to be interested in these things, sometimes they just need the time, right? And pushing them isn't only going to create their dislike for what we're doing. And so while I always am encouraging, always trying to find new ways to make that exciting for them, truth of the matter is that I'm always going to go off of what our state standards are, and I'm going to advocate for my children that aren't quite there yet. So just want to put that preference in before sharing this beginning sounds with you, because this is not something I would expect all my children to do. I've got several right now that definitely could do this right now, and got several that definitely don't want to do this, aren't ready to do this, and this is not even on their radar, right? And so that's okay, because it's just the beginning of March. So, but we're going to hang. So what you would do to use these is to hang these pictures, and you can see the first letter is bigger than the rest. And these are words, right? These are words, but they also have a picture with them. And then they have their recording sheet. Like this is letters A through I again. And so they find the cat and they write the missing letter. The cat says, k, 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 right? And so now I'm starting to understand words. And I have children who are ready for this. And that may be something that I put in the classroom for them. And I have students that aren't ready for this, and that's okay too. And that's why I really, really, when I was making this, redoing this resource, it's like I've got to have the goal of differentiation, because they're all in so many different places. And that's part of the challenge that we have as teachers, right? They're not all where maybe people think they should be, or they're not all at the same spot at the same time. And so this really allows for differentiation, and I've really loved that, and I've loved watching them work together, teach each other. I mean, we know that the best way to learn something and keep it concrete is to teach another, and so definitely big benefits there. So just wanted to share this with you, see if it's something that you might want to use in your classroom. This is just one piece, right? I put the recording sheets in our writing center. I teach how to use them, and I kind of monitor just at first, kind of, are they using these the right way? Do they know what they're doing? Do they need assistance? And I always want them to know that I am there if they need my help, even though I may be working with a small group. This may be what we do for small group one time, right? I may pull this out for a certain group of students that need help working on recognizing, and we'll go around together and we'll do it, right? It could easily be a small group that you do. And once they get a little bit better at it, understand it, it can be an independent thing at the Writing Center. So lots of ways to use it, and definitely has some big benefits, and they're definitely engaged in the learning. If nothing else, hunting around the room for something like a scavenger hunt is such a fun thing for kids, right? And I've even seen we have them now in our communities for adults, right? We've got scavenger hunts of Kansas City, and they're for adults. And I mean, we all love games, and so it's just another way to bring engaged learning in. And many times they're not even aware that they're doing it, which is super fun on a teacher's part to go, oh, you're learning so much and you don't know. And also just bringing in that group work too, that natural group work, that natural community of working together. So these I will link up in the comments right now. Sorry. Right now there's only spring available. There's more coming soon. And let me know in the comments if summer is something that you think would be helpful, or if these are even something you want to try with your students. Again, definitely not a core piece of our curriculum, but another fun way to bring in some learning in an engaged way. So let me know. Drop me a comment. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.